Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone had a good night last night. We're going to start off today with a quick segment. We'd like to have Barry Coates and Kelly Garrick from the Special Olympics team. Barry Coates, he's the president and CEO of Special Olympics. He's been working there for 40 years. And Kelly, she's the VP of Sports and has been there for 26 years. So they're longtime veterans of this wonderful organization. They hold a tournament here, the Special Olympics North American Championships here at Hilton Head, the very Hilton Head Island here, every year. And it's been around for the last 25 years. Yep. Thank you guys for everything you do. So please give your attention to Barry and Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, and we're certainly excited to be here. We've had a long relationship with PTR, with Dennis and Pat. I remember when we first started the championships here, which was a phenomenal idea with a local group here on the island that had started tennis and wanted to do something beyond just our local Special Olympics program tennis or our state championships that we have. They wanted to open it up on a national stage, and quite honestly, it turned into an international stage. We had countries, we had teams from Italy, from Costa Rica, and a number of other countries that came and participated in this event. So it's been fantastic. Jack Barker, I'm sure a lot of you know, has been very instrumental in our tennis program over the years. And, you know, I look back on when we first started it, Dennis would come out here and he'd be right here in this corner with our award stands, and he would hang a medal on every single athlete. And there were years we had up to 200 athletes here, and he would do this for 2-3 hours, however long it took, got a picture with everyone, and was just so gracious in how he hosted us here. And he saw the benefit in tennis for any population, I believe, is what really struck me as it's so awesome to see. He saw that it benefited, you know, from our kids that were doing skills all the way up to our players that played at a 4.0 and 4.5 level. So it's been incredible being a part of this, and certainly want to thank everyone. And Kelly's our VP of Sports, does a fantastic job, has been over this event for a good while now, and certainly can speak a lot more to the nuts and bolts of it and how successful it's been. So thank y'all for having us.
Thank you, Barry. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much to Radhika and to Jack and to Scott for you guys continuing to have us involved with PTR and the PTR Foundation. That relationship has really helped us build a strong tennis foundation across the state, and as Barry was alluding to, it's continued to build a strong tennis foundation across the country and internationally. That competition that he was speaking of, yes, was started as a small Southeast invitational, and Vandermeer was approached by the local area director here and some of our staff members and said, hey, what would you think about giving an opportunity for some tennis, another training, another competition opportunity for our athletes? And of course, he was on board, and it has grown from there. So Special Olympics North America recognized the validity of it and how popular it was, and the number of states that were coming down, and internationally the number of countries that were coming. And yes, we are going strong since 2000, and we're very excited about that. But not only has that tennis foundation been such a pivotal point that started here to allow that competition to really flourish and see on average 150 athletes in Unified Partners. And for those that are unaware, Unified Partners, we do have individuals without intellectual disabilities that do play some of our sports with our athletes. So we'll have athletes out on a tennis court playing tennis on their own, but they'll also, depending upon the level, be out with a Unified Partner. So those levels are offered at that competition. But not only does it allow for the Tennis Foundation to be built here through this competition, but it has also, in general, had a huge impact for tennis development within our state, within all of the local programs across the state. We have 16 local programs, and 7 of them have strong tennis programs. And of course, we're always looking for ways to try to build those programs and then expand that. But it's tournaments like this that we're able to have relationships with PTR Foundation that allow us to push in and expand those tennis programs and really engage more athletes at all levels of tennis. So thank you so much for having us here. We're very excited to have met all of you, and if we haven't met you, we're gonna make sure that we do. But you're gonna get to see some really great athletes later this morning. We'll have a couple come out and be on the court with Lisa, and you'll be able to see some of their skills. They're wonderful local athletes from Hilton Head, and they're gonna be excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Kelly.
Good morning, everybody. This is a little bit unrehearsed, but I was so happy to see that Ms. Kelly from Special Olympics came to speak to you today. And I just wanted to say a couple of things about Special Olympics. I was very, very honored and privileged that I met the Special Olympic athletes about 15 years ago. And somebody encouraged me to become involved with Special Olympics locally in Hilton Head. So I did. And my journey lasted about 10 years. So for 10 years, I was the Hilton Head and Bluffton adult program coach, as well as the Hilton Head middle school and high school coach for special needs. And one of the most memorable experience that I will hold in my heart from my entire tennis journey, which began when I was a youngster. But the first time that I got on the court and I started teaching Special Olympics, when I finished that morning, I literally started bawling, just crying uncontrollably. And my tears were tears of happiness. The sincerity, the love, the compassion, just the relationship that you felt immediately with these individuals, unbelievable. Something that I had never experienced before, not to that deep level. So that's what really encouraged me to stay with Special Olympics for 10 years. Every time that we have a tournament here that we hold at Special Olympics, this entire place, it is packed, 100 or maybe more athletes. We have an amazing tennis exhibition. I tell Kelly, I said, it is hands down the most amazing evening, the evening that I look forward to the most. And, you know, so my words to you is that if you have not had the luck, the privilege, the honor to be involved with Special Olympics, even if it's just a little bit of a taste, I would really, really encourage you to find a local coach or a local organizer, go to the high school, go to the public courts, just be a volunteer. And you're gonna remember what I'm telling you. You will be hooked forever. You wanna do it again and again. And I want you to know something that it is very, very true. You're not there serving them. You're not there doing them a favor. Let me be very clear with you. They're doing you a big favor. My most valuable life learning lessons, I learned them on the tennis court through Special Olympics. So I promise you, it's such an incredible moment that you will be very grateful that you put yourself in that position. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Royce. Thank you for sharing your story. So, first segment for today is a panel discussion. The topic is meeting the original international master professionals. Please give a warm welcome applause as I announce all the panelists as they come on court. First person coming up is Gene Mills, PTR Hall of Fame, past president of the PTR board, USTA Florida Hall of Fame, Jean was honored with the Yellow Tennis Ball Tribute Award for her dedication to the growth of tennis and community outreach in South Florida. Next is Scott Tharp, PTR International Master Professional, 1996 PTR Professional Pro of the Year. Scott currently serves as president of the Ed Snyder Youth Hockey Foundation. He served as the executive director of the Arthur Ashe Youth Tennis and Education and was inducted in the USTA Middle States Hall of Fame in 2015. Ken DeHart, PTR Hall of Fame, RSPA Master Professional, inducted into the Campbellsville University Hall of Fame for his years of success and dedication to the sport of tennis. Louie Cap, PTR Hall of Fame, member since its inception, 50 years. He has dedicated his life to serving the PTR by conducting workshops in all over the world, including countries such as India, China, Hong Kong, Slovakia, Hungary, and many, many others. Pete Collins, PTR IMP. He's famous for his book, Successful Doubles with Pete Collins. Through his outstanding presentation skills, he made doubles very enjoyable. Pete's easy-to-fix doubles techniques have helped elevate thousands of players' names. Jorge Andrew, a Venezuelan Davis Cup team member. PTR and RSPA International Master Professional, was inducted into the Southern Tennis Foundation Hall of Fame in 2022. In 2016, Jorge received the International Hall of Fame Education Merit Award. He also served as the PTR president from 2012 to 2015. Luciano Botti. Luciano was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2018 and has played a crucial role in establishing partnerships between the PTR and the Italian Federation. Upon his leadership, PTR Italy has grown to include over 2,000 members. As the president and CEO of PTR Italy, he inspires PTR professionals with his leadership and strong work ethic. And introducing our moderators for this panel, we're returning today, LaCroix. And joining us today is Kalindi Dinoffer. Kalindi is a passionate somatic therapy practitioner and yoga teacher who created the foldableyogamat.com line of unique foldable yoga mats. She shares her blog, Mindful Kalindi, and works with individuals and small groups. Kalindi serves as the Chief Marketing Officer for her family sports and wellness company, as we all know, offcourt.com. She met her husband, Josh, at the 2019 PTR conference. Right. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We didn't wake up that early just to get that sort of applause. Let's do that again. Good morning, everyone. That's more like it, wakey, wakey. So, I have to say, I'm 6'6", 250 pounds on a good day. I don't get intimidated often, but this is a panel that certainly intimidates me. They've probably forgotten more things than I could ever learn. But it's a pleasure to have all of you here, and we're going to have an amazing time asking some great questions, getting some incredible answers. And also, Kalindi and I don't want to be selfish. We don't want to hog them all to ourselves. So the last couple of minutes, I'm going to open it up to all of you for any questions as well. Sound good? Let's try that again. Does that sound good? Now we're up. Thank you. Kalindi?
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's an honor to be here, and I want to kick this off by starting with you, Jean. Oh, yeah, thanks. Not much mic experience. Thank you. Wanted to ask you, when you first began working with Dennis, how about now? Yeah, okay. When you first began working with Dennis, what did he expect of you? Not just professionally, but as a human being, and how did that shape you into the leader you became?
So I started with Dennis when I was 24 years old, and Dennis offered me the job as executive director of the PTR. I was a farm girl from Alabama. Here's this tall man that, how can you say no to Dennis? You can't. So I moved to Hilton Head. He immediately sent me to California to move the office back to Hilton Head. Meanwhile, day one on the job, there's 1,200 members of the PTR. Dennis says, let me tell you what I need you to do, Jeannie. First of all, he changed my name. My name was Jean. He's the only person in the world, he calls me Jeannie, but he calls me Jeannie Mills. So it's not like Jeannie Mills is my name. It's not like Mary Lou in the South. He called me my whole name the whole time. So Jeannie, I need you to do a few things. First, you're going to build the Vandermeer Tennis Center. You'll meet with the contractors every day. You'll run the executive, the PTR. And also, I have 6 condominiums. You need to take care and pay all those bills. But the last thing you need to do is take care of my baby. And I'm thinking, what's his baby? It was a red Corvette. So what you don't know, and I never told him, I can't drive a stick shift. So the point is, Dennis Vandermeer, day one, extended what he expected of me way up here, which is what he always did. And it's what shaped me, because now I can't just stay here. I have to go here. And for those of you that know me, I don't know how to just stay here. He always taught me and expected more of me and believed in me when I knew nothing and I didn't believe in myself.
Thanks, Jean.
So this question kind of follows up with what Jeannie said. And this... Jean. Sorry, Jean. I should know better by now, being in Boca for all these years. But this question goes to Scott. We know that Dennis had some pretty high standards. Was there a moment? Was there a conversation? Was there a experience that you had with Dennis that you realized the standards were going to be much, much higher than you expected?
There were so many of those moments, but first I just want to address something. When I walked out here, you all probably saw me bring an extra chair. There were 8 of us. Unfortunately, Gene Holland passed away a few years ago, but I wanted to bring a chair for him because he's with us today, and we'll all be with him again someday. Hopefully not too soon, but I just wanted to honor Gene as one of the original 8. That aha moment with Dennis, actually, the very first time I ever met Dennis, I had just come off the tennis court at the National Teachers Conference in New York. I had just done a presentation. And fortunately, I didn't realize that Dennis was in the audience, or I might have been too nervous to complete my presentation. But as I walked off, he came over to me, put out his hand, introduced himself, and said, nice work. Have you ever thought about joining the PTR? And I said, well, I've heard of the PTR, but I hadn't thought about it. He said, you need to come to Hilton Head. And he said, I think we can learn from each other. And that just blew me away. You know, what could Dennis Vandermeer possibly learn from me? But at that moment, I realized that Dennis Vandermeer was committed to a lifetime of learning, a lifetime learner. And I knew then that that's the standard that I had to reach as well. I had to become a lifetime learner.
Thank you, Scott. Pete, Dennis spoke about being more than a coach, being a professional. Our role is greater than just being a teacher. How did that influence you throughout your career? How did you model it? How did that come to be?
Well, first, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was in Dennis's first university in 1972 because Billie Jean and I were assigned to build shipyard, and I had to go out to see this guy named Dennis Vandermeer. I said, why? He said, well, Billie Jean and Dennis have Tennis America going on. We want you to do camps here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. So I was hitting with Larry King at Port Royal, and one afternoon he says, Pete, we got to be in a plane for California in 3 hours. I said, what are you talking about? Well, you got to go out and understand how the standard method is and meet Dennis Vandermeer. So that's my introduction to him. 10-day camp. I was 2 days late, but we got along great. And the influence on him, and I was lucky to do a lot of speaking, is that you have so much influence as a teacher over your students. Do not underestimate your power over these kids. And he was very respectful of everything he always did. He said, remember, Pete, you're not a teacher. You are a leader, and you have great influence. And even if you're a school teacher, the power you have over kids cannot be underestimated. And that was one. And I was with Dennis a lot because I became part of his tennis university at the end. And I was here for many years. And I'd be sitting with Dennis, and he'd learn around, and here comes a couple walking in. He jumps up, goes over, you're a tennis player? And his enthusiasm for the game, forget the teaching, we all know how good a teacher he was, but his enthusiasm of tennis and connecting them with people, you can't underestimate. And don't underestimate, all of you, your power over kids too. You guys are great models.
You can pass it down to Ken. All right. So this kind of does continue our theme about education and how Dennis saw education. And Ken, I wanted to ask you, early on, how did Dennis's belief that, education is a responsibility, not a product, how did that shape the way you approached leadership and program development at PTR?
I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and a friend of mine, Thay Bucci, said, let's go down to, there's this guy down in Florida named Vandermeer that's going to do this tennis university. Let's go down and see what he could do. So we got in his little purple Saab and drove down to Sarasota, Florida, and got a chance to work with Louie, Bunny, all the group there that tested us in Helma. And on the way down, we were like, what can this guy teach me I don't already know? Because I've been teaching for like 3 years. I'm pretty smart. Yeah. And then we got down there. We were overwhelmed, obviously, by his approach to what he did, the clarity with which he spoke, and it changed our lives. And I think it did for most of us when you go up. He set standards that you didn't know that there was even possible to be out there. And so we all were drawn up to that level. It's like he was here and he would draw you up. He was never above you. He was part of just a system that drew you up. And so as a coach and as a teacher, same way, you set a standard for yourself and for your players and the people in your life, and then you help draw them up to where he wants to be. And much like Jeannie over here was saying, when I came down, I served as executive director starting in '83, and I'd walk by Dennis's office every morning in the office over there, and good job, Kenny. And I go on upstairs and good job, Kenny, next day. So finally I said, so Dennis, what is it that I'm doing good so I'll know how to do it again? He said, okay, you got me there. So we sat down and he had a long talk with me about what he thought I was doing. And he said, you're right, be more specific about what it is you're doing good. And when you talk to people, let them know specifically what it is that you like what they're doing or what you want them to do, because that's the only way it's measurable. So he set standards for all of us all the time. But so my aunt calls me Kenny, Dennis called me Kenny, and somebody be Ken DeHart. And first they thought my name was Candy Heart for a long time. So I'm sweet, but not that good. So this is Candy Heart.
That's a great answer, Candy. Dr. Louie Cap, you've probably spent as much time with Dennis as anybody else. We know Dennis was extremely demanding. He was very supportive. As I like to say, he had high expectations but high forgiveness. How did that shape you? What was that like on a day-to-day basis, and what was it that you got out of that?
Well, I think I know Dennis best of every one of you, but since I was, first time I met Dennis in Berkeley Tennis Club in 1967. And I played with a fellow who I was playing in Europe, and I went to University of Washington and as a student, and during the spring break, my friend called me and said, well, why don't you, when you do nothing, why don't you just come to Bay Area? I will show you San Francisco and everything. And so we went to, we played at the Berkeley Tennis Club, and after we played, my friend said, why don't I introduce you to our home pro? I said, great. And here comes Dennis. Hello, my name is Dennis. Hi, my name is Louie. We shook hands, and since then, that's history. We didn't have any contracts, nothing. It was a shake hands, and since then, everything fell together. Dennis, in my life, as you know, many of you, I'm running quite a bit. I'm ready for my 50th consecutive Boston Marathon this April. And not many of you know that Dennis was the reason why I started running. We were doing the clinic, King of Prussia, and Dennis said, Louie, let's go have a run. And he ran me in the ground. 11 years more older than me. Then we came to Sweetbriar, and with the Sweetbriar, there was a lady known Goldie Edwards, who was the basically nutritionist and kind of a little bit fitness. Those days wasn't too much stress, but anyway, we had the Cooper Run, which is the 2-mile run. Again, Dennis ran me in the ground. And I said, there's no way he's going to beat me again. So I trained secretly. And when we came to Hilton Head, we did the tennis university at the Port Royal. And Dennis said, let's go and run a little bit. I said, good. And we start running, and then he said, I will see you later, Louie. And I said, no, Dennis, you will see me later, all right? And that was the last time he beat me, and so that's my history with the running. And so again, to overall, I cannot, there's no words we can describe what Dennis meant for me, and in terms of not only professionalism and everything, but in terms of life, we had that famous game of 21, which we did almost every lunch in Sweetbriar. Speaking of Sweetbriar being an 105-degree temperature during the lunch, and Eddie knows about that too, a little bit, and some other pros. But anyway, there's no way to describe, just the effect what Dennis had on my life, and in terms of the professionalism and everything around. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that playing a game of 21 was definitely the litmus test if you were going to be a good professional or not. Jorge, to you. When you entered Dennis's world, what aspects of his philosophy were most ingrained in you and you took with you throughout your career?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that this is a very special occasion, having the original international master pros, together. It doesn't happen too often in the last few years, but we love each other and we have a long tradition. Going back to the question, the first thing that I learned from Dennis was that you never ever stop learning. He always was learning, observing, changing things. He made a major impression on me and in everybody else, showing that the more you know, the better you become, and that's the you strive for excellence all the time. And I was lucky enough a couple of times to travel with Dennis, And every time I travel, I try to pick up his brain. And one of the things that came always to the front is that you learn something new every day, and you apply it, and then you adjust to the situation every time. So Dennis always wanted us to learn more and to be better in what we were doing.
Thanks, Jorge. Just, loving all the depth and answers and just the themes of this, the standards of learning. And thank you. Sorry. Luciano, I'd like to turn to you on the international front. And I'm curious, when you first began carrying Dennis's vision internationally, what aspects were there that resonated immediately across cultures?
So for me, it's a similar story that we heard from many of you when, we just arrived here as nobody, and, a young fellow just came here. So, I start a little bit longer to explain the story. But I was teaching in Merano, in northern Italy, in a hotel. And that was because I was a college student, but something happened in my family. I lost my father in the age of 56. I was 19. And so we had to change some family programs. So, and I was known in my city, as a good junior, and I also did some other coaching experiences. So in one hotel was building tennis courts because was the time internationally where many big coaches like Vic Braden, like Hopman, like others, they're opening camps and starting these clinics, weeks for tourists. So, and our region is also very touristic, and so the hotel saw that this is something new business, and they start to build tennis courts next to the hotel. Of course, one or two, not like here. And just for, a case, I was not involved as a tennis pro. I was still studying, but one hotel owner asked me if I have a pro that can help, in a particular season for the opening. So I suggest one pro that's a friend of mine. But then 5 days before, he had an accident. He couldn't start. So the hotel owner asked me, what we do. So that's okay, I come, and I try to do. But it was group lesson, and so from this point, I saw that maybe tennis could be for me a new career, and I love it. So then, how can I improve? And just for another case, one tennis pro from Germany who owned a big tennis indoor center came for his holiday at the hotel, and he asked me, do you have time after you finish, your lesson plan to hit with me, so just to have fun. And I did it. We get a little more friends. And so he showed me his brochure for the tennis center he owned, and I saw the logo of the eagle, USPTR. Say, what's that? Yeah, I have an American pros here that does PTR, USPTR, and so on. So then this gave me an idea why in the winter time I don't try to do something and go in the States and see what the USPTR is. So I took the type machine at the time, and I wrote a letter to enroll in the tennis university. 15 days later came the letter back. I was admitted. So, and then I started and I came here. So this was the beginning, and incredible, experience. And then what's internationally happened is, now I'll tell you how it's happened. So when I came here in 1980, it was for me everything incredible. So also the next day, Dennis was, doing a double, and someone was not coming, and he saw me over there, say, "Hey, Luciano, do you have a racket? Just come in," So for me, it was terrible, just to be here and play with Dennis in a double. And the other problem was that I was playing a continental grip with a forehand at that time, so I was much better in the backhand. But Dennis played better in the backhand, so then I had to play in the forehand side, and that was terrible because, I was very anxious, and so it was not a good start. So anyhow, what's happened then? Then I came back in the winter time when the hotel season closed. And after the second, so then I stay here 1 month or 1.5 months, get friends here. And in 1983, I think, Dennis was saying, now in January we go to Germany. Okay, nice. But where you're going? In Munich, because we have a conference for, the tennis association. Oh, but Munich is very close from where we stay in Italy. So it's about 2.5 hours to us. So, but, I just think. So what I did, I take my car because I knew when they are arriving at the airport. And, I was not invited at all, So I present myself there, say, "Hey, Dennis," and say, "Oh, hi." So he was so nice, to let me join the staff at the moment. Okay, there was also another point because I speak German as a second language, and for him was also a good thing to have a translation. But he told me he had a translator. So I say, "Luciano, you should translate me if the translator say exactly what I'm saying, because sometimes the translators are doing not a good job." So, and from this point it started, and I was involved in many international trips, particularly in Europe, because every year in January, Dennis, for many, many years, organized, and then later I was in charge to organize this, conferences and tennis university in Germany, in Switzerland, in Austria, in Italy, and then we started in Italy in 1985. And so then, he was able to, to do a conference, to do a clinic, to do a tennis university, but then, to get most of the pros participating, joining PTR or USPTR, because, because Dennis. So, and that was happened for many, many years, and now it's a little bit different, of course, so the time changed. But that was the starting. And in 1985, then he say, "Why you don't be in charge for doing in Italy, the USPTR?" And we started in Italy, of course, in January, having always Dennis coming. We started the Italian symposium. The federation was not doing at that time symposium. Was really so, for Italy was something new, and from that on, everything started. And I think outside the United States, Dennis was, incredible, because that's something that he liked most, to go around in the countries, to learn the culture, and to make many contact, many friends. So, and from that point, so then the rest is history, So very funny how it starts sometimes, just to see a brochure and a logo, and from that point, your life changed.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that story, Luciano. I'd like to turn back to you, Jean. And I'm curious that as PTR evolved, you've all shared a bit about the beginnings, and as it started to evolve, how did you translate Dennis's vision into real structures and decisions, especially in times where there wasn't a clear roadmap?
Well, Dennis pretty much set the roadmap. I mean, he was an incredible visionary, and there were tough times. I mean, there were, like any business, ups and downs, but I think the key to Dennis's greatest asset, and people will disagree with me on this probably, was his unique gift of people. He made everybody feel special, unique, but what he did, he lived what he said. And most people will speak, oh, make a difference. What does that really mean? He made a difference not only on the court, but he made a difference off the court. An example I'll give you, my entire life, I would bite my fingernails. He picked up on it the first week I met him. He says, Jeannie Mills, terrible. You need fingernails, you need fingernails. Today I have fingernails because of Dennis Vandermeer. But the point is, he cared enough about me to make me a better person. And as a man, he saw something he didn't like. Well, you want the men to be happy. So Dennis was able to do that with everybody he met. And he didn't give you fingernails or give you fingernails, but he picked out something that would make you better. And he always did that with the organization. When things were bad, he would say, don't tell me the problem. Solution. Jeannie Mills, what's the solution? What's the solution? Don't come to me. What's the solution? And I think because he did that, all of us were driven to go to that higher level. We were driven to think outside the box. He knew what he was doing with us. We just never knew until 50 years later when we're sitting here talking about it.
Well said, Gene, and I do agree with you. I think to summarize that, Dennis brought a different level of philosophy that we don't see nowadays in this industry, which is Dennis loved the people and he used the money. He didn't love the money and use the people. So I think that's really important for Dennis. Scott, back to you. You were instrumental in bringing the early days of the curriculum into the program. When you were developing and sort of executing that curriculum, what parts of that curriculum were just absolutely non-negotiable? And which ones did you have a little bit of leeway with?
I really don't know if I can take credit, the credit you're giving me, because Dennis already had a plan. He by the time the curriculum came to me, it was already vetted by so many experts that there wasn't a whole lot I could do but to nod. The thing that always stuck out at me was how mechanically sound the curriculum was. He taught us as we were making corrections or giving lessons that it's very easy to find a critical error if you just follow the progressive chain. And it really stuck with me. I've got to refer to something Jean just said about her nails. Don't flatter yourself. He talked about all of our nails all the time. He said, hey, the most important thing for a teaching pro is to have clean fingers and clean fingernails, because the first thing you teach is a grip. And you don't want to be putting your hands with grimy fingernails in front of a group of ladies if you're giving a lesson. So he had a way of really drilling down to the absolute fine points that that most people don't think about when they come out. They think it's all about hitting tennis balls and not about that you're packaging yourself. And one thing that Ken said really jumped out at me today. He said, people hold Dennis up here, and I know we all did, but in reality, Dennis was down here pushing us to get up there. And, I'll just always be thankful for that, for having him as a mentor.
Well, thank you, Scott. Well said. And you're very humble, so thank you for that. Pete, Dennis's ideas were simple yet profound. So how did you take those concepts, build those programs, and make sure that they didn't become watered down over time?
Well, the best thing about his was his progression of how he did things. Very easily understandable progression. And I watched that progression with the standard method, and I did my successful doubles, and it's the same exact theory. It's a progression of things to do, very easily done and everything. That all came from what I saw him doing, and that was greatly influenced me. Speaking about what he said, early on, I had this wonderful booklet and all these pictures on how to teach tennis, and I brought it down to Dennis. I said, man, he's going to love this. He went to the grip page, and I had a grip there, but I did not finish the top of the grip. There was a little grip stand, I didn't cut it, and you finish, you wrap it. And he said, Pete, how could you put that picture in there? That thing should be wrapped. He completely destroyed me on one picture of a grip. I said, Dennis, what? No, you got to be professional. You got to. And damn it, he was right. You know, every time he's right. So we've had a wonderful career together. And he was so willing. Every time I'd go to Hilton and come down here, he would say, Pete, what have you got for me? I bet all of you had that conversation with Dennis when he sees you. What have you got for me? He was always wanting to learn something, and he'll ask anybody. And so the whole progression of him understanding people, but he loved tennis. Whatever you say about him, he loved tennis, and he loved getting people to play tennis. I'll never forget that. And again, he was tough at times, but he was usually right, which really hacked me off as well. Okay, but when I came to him with my doubles, and I said, Dennis, I got this thing about doubles I'm doing pretty well. He said, oh, show me. No. Well, I showed him, but I came back and I did a presentation the way I wanted to do it a week later with the group. Went home and I called Dennis up. I said, Dennis, you know, you got to have the doubles part of your workshop for your teachers. He said, you're right. He said, send me a video. I said, no, I won't send you a video, but I will come down and teach it and be part of your university. And he said, absolutely. And we were with each other for about several years. So he wasn't intimidated by anybody. He just wanted to know what you know. And I'll be ever grateful for because of what he did for me is what I ended up doing all over the place. So that's my story, and I'll stick to it.
Thanks, Scott. Ken, if we can pass a mic back to Ken. 2 mics.
Mike.
There you go. What was the most challenging part of turning Dennis's philosophy into sustainable systems without losing its integrity?
The challenge, first of all, is like after you went through the tennis university, you had to come back and you knew what you were teaching wasn't really sound. How do you all of a sudden say, you know, the things I've just taught you aren't very correct. Here's what I learned. And people say, well, I like your old way. And I said, the old way's no good. It's just what I taught you, and you like my personality. You didn't like what I taught you anyhow. But then the challenge was just saying, I can't see his vision, but I've got to try to grow into it. Because he gave me so much information in such simple ways. And the biggest thing he gave all was like, how do you make it simple? He told me one day, he says, Kenny, there's only 3 movements in any sport you play. You catch it, that's a volley. You toss it, that's a ground stroke. And you throw it, that's a serve. That's all there is. Until you put a stupid stick in your hand. Your job is to make it so when they put the stupid stick in their hand, that they still think it's really easy to play. And so his genius was he had all these amazing things that he's a member of the Men's Society. I had no idea what that even is. I had to look it up to even figure out what it was. But he had such an amazing capability of doing that, but making it so simple that even a country boy from Indiana and a boy that lived in the South most of his life and almost spoke Southern sometimes could make me understand what it was like. And I had to show everybody else, look, if I could do it, you can do it too. And Dennis, so you always use Dennis's name in everything you did. Here's what Dennis Vandermeer taught me. Here's what I learned from Dennis Vandermeer. So it's never what Ken DeHart did. It's like, because he gave credit to people who are doing things greater than you are, and you try to move up to their standards like that.
Thanks, Ken. I love that. And that last, there's been so many like quotes that I'm trying to write them down, but to give credit to people that do things better than you, and it's like this living legacy and the humility, and it's amazing.
Yes.
Luciano, I want to turn back to you. And I'm wondering, were there moments when you needed to adapt Dennis's ideas for different countries while staying true to his intent? And how did you navigate that balance?
Yeah, there are two different moments, you know. As long Dennis was traveling and doing the courses and the conferences, you know, it was easy because that was the way to do it, and that for many, many coaches was something new. New because it was very simple and well structured, step by step, group lesson, which, you know, outside the United States, particularly in Europe, you know, was not really used to have group lesson. It was just one-to-one, you know, the player paid the pro, you want to hit and want to lesson, but no group lesson, only for the kids. And the kids' lesson were 20 kids in the row, you know, and one come to the net, so one ball he missed, go back in the row, and that was. So then Dennis was really innovative, and particularly because at the end there were very, very simple things, but that was his value. Now, after, you know, the second part is when Dennis, you know, didn't travel so much anymore, and we started to have a clinician doing in different countries, you know, the courses and so on. The federation went, you know, in the early time, federation were not so involved in the tennis teaching, you know, so some yes, other no. And of course, when they started to try to build educational program for coaching education, they have no big experience. So then Dennis was very supporting this. And with the time, the federation learned, and then they start to do in their own way. So then many things that Dennis was presenting has been taken, but then, you know, it's changed. And also the time changes. So the way to teach, they start with the mini tennis, you know, and Dennis was the first one that introduced the instant tennis, you know, and now, you know, that was already many, many years ago, and now they present it as a new. So the point is, now internationally, it's difficult to you know, to present PTR method in the same way in all countries, because there are different situations. So Dennis was able to do it because, you know, he was coming and that was. But now with clinicians that, you know, start to come in the country where the federation already has built their own pathway and their own educational program, is very difficult to bring something different. So we need to adapt. So to keep, you know, the fundamentals that Dennis gave us, and try to promote it as best as possible, as a legacy too for me now and always. So we decide to put, you know, one part in an online course, which is the fundamental of teaching. So we don't bring the standard method as a label, as a name, but that is, you know, so, and that's the part that still we are able to bring in the different clinic and courses. And the second part, the practical and the face-to-face, is more adapted to the different countries, how the federation feel that's the way they want. So in this way, we are able to join and find cooperation and acceptance from the federation. That, of course, that's the only way to today to be able to have, you know, participants and then also members. So there are different ways at different times. So that is the point internationally, you know.
Thank you. I just want to be cognizant of time. I know Radhika's probably going to kill me, but I could be with this panel all day. There's so much information, but I want to finish with Dr. Louie Cap and Jorge, and then I want to bring it off to the audience for just 2 quick questions. But Dr. Cap, as PTR grew and scaled, how were you able to manage to preserve Dennis's teaching philosophy and still keep that sort of human relational approach, despite the immense growth and all the amount of players and coaches coming in?
Well, as Dennis was obviously the teaching large groups, and that's what we try to, thrive on, teaching the groups, because the groups, Dennis always said, funny story, speaking of the groups, we came first time to China and Beijing, and the president of the Chinese Tennis Association said, welcome Dennis, welcome everything, and welcome to teach the Chinese players. And Dennis said, you want me to do individual or group lessons? So that was kind of thing. How many people are in China, 1.4 billion people, how much time will it take you to the individual lesson to do it, So clearly you have to have a big base. And with the group lessons, Dennis kind of formed the kind of standard, you come there, you know the names, you move around, you never stand there. So this is something which projected in every groups which we have, that's the basic, and once you start like that, you keep the enthusiasm, and we always try to stress the fact to coaches that, they should be very enthusiastic like Dennis. Every time you never stand in one spot. We make a little bit joke. I make a joke that many of the clubs, they have a net post which are, a little bit crooked. Why? Because the pros are standing there and holding the net post. So, well, that's kind of goes. Anyway, so those are the things which really that's always when you start like that, and when you, of course, you get certain charisma with the lessons. You throw in a couple of the jokes. You have to know what kind of jokes, and who to have a little bit jokes. But those are things kind of tough to. There's no standard manuals for that. But it's experience, and obviously when you are around Dennis, that really sticks with you very quickly.
Thank you. Jorge, we're coming down the finish line here. When you're building programs and clubs and even just developing players, what part of Dennis's philosophy did you have to stick with, maybe rather than his words or intent? And what part of his philosophy did you kind of have to recreate or evolve as you went through your career?
Well, as I learned the standard method of teaching, that made it a lot easier for me, and I know from thousands of coaches all over the world, that gave you an excellent base to from there do whatever you needed to do and to adjust to all the situations that you can. Dennis, like Gene said, he was a visionary, and he left us with so many things throughout the years that we were able to use. But in my case specifically, it was the standard method of teaching. I just happened to find the other day my evaluation from Dennis in 1981. In 1981, here sign is kind of breaking down, but I brought it. So this to me is very proud, and that's when I learned the standard method of teaching, and I have talked with it for all these years, and it has helped me tremendously, and it really made a world of difference to me.
I think that evaluation should be hung in the Smithsonian. Okay, I lied, not 2 questions, 1 question. It better be a good one. 1 question from anyone here in the audience, or did they all blow you away and answer everything you needed? Or is this just a really shy group? It's a really shy group? Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much, panelists. Thank you, Kalindi, co-moderator, great job. Thank you so much. Let's give these original master professionals a huge round of applause.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you so much to our panelists. I just wanted to, I was just making some notes because there was like amazing quotes in there, and there was a couple that I just thought we could kind of end with. And Jorge, you talked about never stopping to learn, and that was a value that Dennis had. And Jean, I loved you talked about that Dennis lived what he said, and I think all of you also live what you say, and that if there's anything that we can take forward and that I personally want to take forward after this weekend, that value of living what you say, that authenticity and integrity, that's huge. And also, don't tell me the problem, tell me the solution. I love that. And that teachers are leaders with great influence. So just, yeah, really, really love it. And thank you all, and thank you, everyone. And thanks to Radhika for organizing.